Welcome to the Jersey Shore podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mazuka, and today I'm here with my guest, John LeMay from OceanTech. This podcast is brought to you by On Your Mark Designs. We're a digital marketing agency in Bayville, New Jersey, and we're here to help you find the best businesses and services to help you shop Jersey Shore. Please stay tuned for a giveaway at the end of the show. We'll have you answer a question about something that we talk about today. And before the next episode, we'll choose a winner and send you a gift. Wherever you're watching or listening, please subscribe and follow the show. We air a new episode every week. Thank you for joining me, John.
Good morning. Thanks, Lisa, for having me, for inviting me to do this, and for allowing me to do this.
Absolutely. So tell the audience about yourself. Introduce yourself. Who are you? Tell us the name of your company and what does your company do?
Sure. So my name's John LeMay. My business is OceanTech, and we're an IT provider located in Toms River, where I've lived with my wife since 1999. So we're long-term residents of the area, and OceanTech has been here since 2020.
Great. So you're an IT provider. So when people go online and they say, I need computer help, who can I speak with? Are you serving residential customers? Are you serving businesses? Tell us about who you are able to help.
Sure. So OceanTech provides managed IT services, cybersecurity solutions, and services related to that to small, mid-sized businesses and nonprofits. We're primarily local, Toms River area, Ocean County area, up into Monmouth County a bit. We're very local, so we're not a national provider of those services. We do focus on small, mid-sized business and nonprofits. We don't do residential, just because of the added complexity and what we do. We don't have a good model for the residential side. Most of our clients in that nonprofit and small business space are people that have organizations that rely heavily on technology, but they don't have that deep technical knowledge to help them scale their business. They don't have the ability to manage day-to-day support in a mature manner that enables them to keep their business running optimally. So they come to us to provide that expertise.
Okay, so do you find that in some cases, the differences between the problems of the small and mid-sized business and those larger organizations are that those larger places might have some in-house help? So smaller businesses are able to outsource those questions and concerns?
So as an organization grows and as the organization scales, so does complexity, so does risk, so does the need for support. Whether that's just day to day, somebody has a computer problem in the office, or they have some major project, right? This piece of technology isn't working for us. So whether you're a small organization that's just starting to grow, or whether you're a larger organization that's matured, the technology demand is always there. It may be a little bit different, but there's always a significant technology risk in any organization today, just because of the way organizations rely on technology. There are consistent issues that we see across organizations, no matter what size. Operational risk and complexity, I'm talking about that now, right? What is it that the business does? What are they trying to do? What are their processes that they're doing every day? And how does technology impact that? What is the impact of that technology is unavailable, outdated? What if that technology isn't meeting the needs of the organization? Small organizations, big organizations, for-profits, nonprofits, they all have a similar set of problems. Yes, every business is unique and there are going to be unique needs there, but we have different ways to work with organizations. You touched a bit on people that have internal IT support. In some cases, we will have relationships where we sort of co-manage IT. We'll take some of the heavy lifting off and let that internal person handle the day-to-day operations to the extent they're able. Many times in organizations, we find that internal IT person isn't a dedicated IT person. They're doing part-time IT and they're doing their full-time job the rest of the time. So that makes it difficult to keep ahead of anything other than reactive or firefighting, we like to call it.
So in those cases, you're managing things not only like passwords and making sure that the system is secure and what should stay inside of a company does, but these are financial connections. This is data security. You don't want, we hear about leaks of major companies and major corporations, and sometimes that has to do with media access to information that was never supposed to get out. Are these kinds of situations that you help companies with?
It is, right? There's data protection is important in every organization. Where is that data? How is that data stored? Who has access to that data, right? That role-based model where we understand what is the job role of each person in the organization, what data do they need to have access to, and who shouldn't have access to that data? What data should not be publicly available? We don't want to take private data that should never be outside the organization and put it on a web server. We don't want to put it on a Teams or a Google Workspace account, a Google Drive, someplace that is not protected. That's one very common mistake we see when people take on cloud storage is it's very simple to put data up in the cloud, and it's also very easy to miss the configuration where you determine who has access to that. There's been many examples over recent years of large organizations that should know better having data available publicly that shouldn't be. It's private, it should be protected, but someone made a mistake along the way, missed a check box in their task list and did not protect that data. And so yeah, it's our job to catch that, to make sure we're following the processes that we're supposed to follow to make sure that doesn't happen.
Excellent. And then, so periodically, I would think there would be a review of all those points with an organization that you worked with. For example, as a digital marketing professional, I require access to certain accounts that my clients have. And when I do get access, sometimes there are users listed on these accounts that they haven't worked with like for 2 vendors prior to me being involved. That's something that would periodically need to be reviewed and fixed if something was wrong, right? Is that part of managed services?
It is, right. So account management, vendor relationships, managing all of those, who has access to your company data, who has an account in your Google Workspace or your Microsoft 365. Are those accounts being used? When was the last time they were logged into? Where were they logged into? All of those details we track and we capture that during our periodic reviews. We typically do reviews depending on the client. It may be once a year, it may be twice a year, it may be quarterly, where we do a comprehensive review, an assessment that may be, depending on the size of the organization, maybe as small as 40 to 60 bullet points, or maybe over 100 bullet points, where we look at specific things in the organization. They have to do with security. They have to do with infrastructure. How old is the infrastructure? How old is the equipment in the organization? Is it still covered by a manufacturer warranty? Can we still get support on these things? Are there people coming into your organization that you don't know about anymore because perhaps a stakeholder, the person responsible for this within the organization, has only been in that role for a year or two, and some of these relationships existed prior to their getting there. And so we kind of track all that. We make sure we're reviewing all that from a security perspective, and we identify those. We want to make sure that no accounts is snuck in there. Every organization should have a proper onboarding and offboarding process in place, and we help develop that for our clients. If you're hiring somebody, they need accounts created in various systems, they need passwords configured, they need to get their MFA configured. And then when they leave the organization, we need to make sure that we're turning off that access so that they're not still connected to it outside of the organization.
Absolutely. I would think that that is a big vulnerability for a lot of small businesses who might not realize the T's that need to be crossed and the I's that need to be dotted. Is it ever a situation where you can come in and do this kind of a deep dive assessment and review for a company before they commit to a managed ongoing services kind of a situation, or just provide that deep dive analysis?
We do. In fact, it's a requirement. There are certain things that have to be in place, and that can vary depending on the organization, what business they're in, what type of organization they are. What we're really talking about is the organization that's engaging with us is transferring risk from their organization to us. We're taking on that risk on their behalf. Same way you would buy business liability insurance or health insurance to transfer that risk, right? If I get sick, my health insurance is going to help take care of what that cost is going to be. If my business gets into trouble, my business insurance is going to help cover whatever that cost may be. If you run into technology issues, OceanTech is going to help take care of some of what that cost is going to be, in the sense that we have already done certain things or we'll be able to react to certain events. So that assessment is a prerequisite that we do that at some point at the early in the relationship. Usually one of the first things we suggest, depending on the client, is that we do an initial assessment, which can be as little as 15 to 20 minutes for a very small organization. It may be a month or two for a larger organization. In those larger organizations, we break that up into smaller chunks, so it's a little more palatable. But yes, those assessments have to be done. We need to understand where the organization is from a maturity level, from a perspective of the things I already talked about: infrastructure, security, policies, procedures. What are the internal processes? How well defined are they? Are they more reactive? Are they more proactive as an organization? A reactive organization has much more risk. If your technology is outdated, we have much more risk. If we can't get support for a piece of software your business relies on, that's a significant risk that we need to address. And that's not something that we would be able to help with until that's addressed. So those are the types of things we look at in the assessment. How does everything look? And we kind of boil those down into simple numbers that an executive can look at and say, okay, we're 70% of the way there, we're 50% of the way there. What do we need to do? And then if that client agrees, we come to an agreement on that. We begin working together. We work to close those gaps, and we don't need everything done up front, but we need a commitment to say we're going to get these things done within a reasonable amount of time. And that's the way we typically engage with a new client.
Some people may be curious to know the kinds of companies that make sense to get in touch with you about these kinds of services. So when it comes to industries that you work with, you did mention nonprofits, and we're talking about small to medium-sized businesses. So law offices, construction companies. Talk a little bit about the industries and types of businesses that you currently work with or have worked with.
Sure. So nonprofits are a big one. We've seen nonprofits have matured in the past 5 or 6 years, really since COVID, and a lot of what happened with COVID changed the mentality in the nonprofit world, where they invest more heavily in technology now. And so in tandem, their technology needs and requirements and issues have risen. And so nonprofits are very important to us as an organization. We work with several in the area, but also companies like insurance, financial, accounting firms, engineering, construction are also very big. They're big users of technology. They rely on technology, and they're also very fast-paced organizations. Projects tend to come very quickly, and they tend to wrap up and be closed out very quickly, and then a new project is taking place. And whether it's the engineering and construction I'm primarily talking about there, we see that rapid pace. Unlike the insurance and financial world, where they're more building relationships that are going to last over time, so their client list is only ever going to be so big. It's not going to see the same in and out revolving door, so to speak. Yeah, those are good examples. And a lot of times there's overlap in the technology, but each one of those industries has their specific line of business applications, those specific things that they do that are unlike any other organization. So it helps us to have patterns for the things that everybody does, whether it's the Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace cloud services, whether it's our on-prem servers, network switches, routers, firewalls, all of those things. But then being able to look at what's specific to that business and help guide them through the technology needs there as well.
Interesting. So as more and more professionals and perhaps your clients are starting to use AI in their daily professional life, are you concerned at all about security issues when it comes to how it's being used in the day-to-day and the kind of information that staff and even leadership might be sharing with these systems? Talk a little bit about the security concerns that might come with implementing AI.
So AI there's two types of changes that occur in business and technology. And we either talk about the evolutionary changes, which are much slower, things that just sort of change over time slowly. And we just sort of adapt those as they go. And then we have large revolutionary changes. Revolutionary changes, going back 20 years, the iPhone is a revolutionary change. Going back before that, the PC at the desktop was a revolutionary change. It changed how people work. AI has changed how people work. It's introduced many new risks to organizations. We've reached out to clients, and we've had clients reach out to us about the use of AI. It's happened both ways. What we're concerned with is what AI tools are they using? What tools are they using that are beginning to integrate AI into them? And what data are they putting into AI models? Making sure they're not putting information like PII or PHI, personal identifiable information or personal health information. Don't upload those things into AI because that's confidential information. That goes back to some of the data access we were talking about before. Putting that information outside of your organization, you put into an AI tool, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT or anything else, there is risk associated with that. And those risks are not always clear. One thing we're doing for clients is we're segregating the tools into different categories. Some AI models and some AI tools are more business friendly. They're more mature. They have clear policies in place, and there's more transparency to what happens to your data. Those are the tools we're less concerned with. The ones we're more concerned with are the free AI tools that are effectively just collecting your data to do something else with it, where you're not the customer, you're effectively the product for these tools, and they're taking that information and they're using it in some way that you don't know about. So we do a lot with our systems to block access to those tools after agreeing with our clients that that's what we're going to do. In some cases, they've asked us to block specific ones, and other times they've said, block everything except for this one that we're going to use. We've decided strategically we like this tool, block everything else. So we have the ability to do that. And then we get reports, and that usually informs what we have to block and where we have to do training to educate people on what are the security issues around AI tools and other online websites. We'll just put it in a big broad category that way. What are the security concerns that you need to be aware of when putting your data anywhere out there? So we take those reports, we look at them, we say, this is a new problem emerging. We'll have to take care of this. Being a provider with multiple clients, we can take a look at what's happening across clients, and we may see a problem begin in one client office or in one industry, and we can be proactive about beginning to address that for everyone else at the same time. We can talk to our clients and say, look, we see an emerging problem with this AI tool or some other tool. We're going to start heading this off before it becomes a problem for you as well. We make adjustments to security policies, procedures, educate clients, educate their staff, and then put the technology blocks in place to head off that problem.
That's so valuable because that is something that I see as a webmaster in the same way, right? Like these people, we are the bridge between these clients so that they're not existing alone on an island and think that they are the only one that this is happening to or the only one with this concern. So, to be able to spot across your entire client roster when something is starting to become a trend and to be tapped into the industry where now you hear about other professionals who are experiencing these client concerns, you kind of get the first whiff and can share that with the people that you're working with.
Yeah, every one of our clients they're really, head down focused on running their business. They're focused on what is the next innovation, what is the next product we're going to do, what is the next service we're going to offer, and how are we going to deliver that. They need us to be looking across from a higher level view, looking across the technology spectrum and saying, what are the emerging threats? What are the problems you're going to face when doing this? Whether it's security or what's just scaling your existing technology.
And what's
What are the next steps they
working
need to do?
to address and to solve those problems.
What are the tools that you already have in place? What are the tools that you're lacking? What are the tools that are no longer effective and need to be replaced? That happens as well, right? We're constantly swapping out one piece of technology for another as needs change, as threats change.
Yeah. So, John LeMay, where are you coming from when we see you now in OceanTech? What is your background? How did all this begin?
So I had when I founded OceanTech in 2020, I had approximately 25 or 26 years in corporate IT, primarily in infrastructure. Security came along as part of infrastructure along the way and then broke out into its own thing. So I've been around this deep technology in large enterprise organizations in New Jersey since the mid 90s. And I leverage all of that knowledge and how to build secure, reliable systems and how to do those designs to meet business needs. I'm basically scaling those techniques and skills down to meet the small, mid-sized business, to make it right size for them, to make it meet their needs, and to make it cost effective.
Great. So, since you started this, are you still working with any clients now that you were working in the very beginning of your business? I would imagine that some of your relationships are pretty long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of our earliest clients, actually all of our earliest clients are still with us. I have not had a long-term client who has left OceanTech for another provider. I'm proud of that fact. I hope it stays that way for a long time. But I think that's a reflection of our focus on technology last. We look at the business first. We want to understand, we want to build that relationship. We want to understand how they work, their processes, their goals for the organization. So we look at the business and then we look at what they're doing. What applications are you using? We look at the data issues we already talked about. Where's your data? What are you doing? What are you keeping? What are you getting rid of? What are your retention policies? We talk about all of those things. And then later in the discussion, now we'll talk about technology. Technology has to come last because it has to be informed by all those other things. And I think our clients find that different from the way they've worked with a lot of providers in the past who may go in with a technology solution that they love and they may be a great solution for some organization. But a lot of times in technology, we can easily fall into the trap of thinking that one solution is the right solution for everybody. And that's not the case. Everything needs to be really considered carefully and find the right tools that work for each organization.
So, are you finding that in 2026, the problems that are triggering a potential client to call you are very different than they were in 2020 when you started OceanTech? Are you seeing anything that's the same as it was then versus now?
There's a lot that's the same. 2020 changed a lot in the small mid-sized business technology space. Because of COVID, people began working from anywhere more frequently than they had in the past. Those of us who had been in IT for some period of time were used to this. We were used to working remotely, so we kind of had to take those solutions we used and scale them to small mid-sized business and sort of teach them how to work remotely. How do you set up this for your remote clients, right? You used to rely on an office firewall. Well, now everybody's out in the field, working out of their houses or a coffee shop. How do we protect those? And so those security protections had to evolve. A lot of the problems that we see coming to us in the past couple of years, it's not that the problems have changed, but it's the criticality of those problems or the importance of resolving those problems more quickly. And I'm speaking specifically about cyber threats. The cyber threat landscape changes every 15 minutes. Every time an IT provider gets good at one thing, the bad actors get good at something else, and then we have to pivot and look at what they're doing now. Fortunately, the tools we have today are very good at heading off these threats, but they're also very complex and they take a lot of time and effort to manage and to tweak and to keep tuned and to monitor and to respond to events as they occur. That takes up a lot of effort and a lot of planning and a lot of review after events happen. So in some ways, the needs have changed in the sense that systems have changed, AI has come into the mix, security threats have gotten worse. But in other ways, it stayed the same, where if we focus on processes, on policies, on data protection, the outcomes are still positive.
Definitely. The people that you are meeting locally are in the Ocean and Monmouth County area. That's where you are based in Toms River. You're involved with so many, not only nonprofits as clients, you engage with different organizations in the community. So tell us about some of the organizations that you work with and that you are a member of.
Absolutely. So one thing that I do myself, I'm active in local chamber of commerce in Toms River, farther north in Monmouth Ocean Development Council. I'm a board member there, and I've been with both those organizations since I founded OceanTech. They're the first two relationships I established for the organization, and they have been long-term strategic partners and very valuable relationships, not just the organizations themselves, but everybody that I've built relationships with in those organizations. OceanTech, very proud to be able to sponsor events for some of our nonprofit partners. We do that frequently, a few times a year, where we have some event that we're doing at least a partial sponsorship for, to help out those organizations because they're doing so much good work in the area. I've recently, through a contact I met through the chamber, became aware of and interested in what our local Rotary clubs do as far as their work from a service perspective. So where OceanTech is doing sponsorships, financial support for these nonprofits, in Rotary, it's actually more service oriented. We're actually going out and doing things. It's not just about writing a check. It's actually about investing your time, seeing what these organizations are doing, and seeing who we can help, seeing how we can help, and kind of bring everybody up.
I love that. Yes, our local Rotary, and there are a couple of different options. They meet.
Yeah. There's actually two right here in Toms River. There's two clubs. There's an evening club, and a lunchtime club. So there's some flexibility there. I'm a member of one. I visit both, but yeah, they're both solid clubs, and I think what they do is different. My perspective on the two clubs is they're unique in their own ways. Every Rotary club is different. That's one thing I've learned. There's really not a set pattern for what a Rotary club looks like. It all depends on who the members are and what the needs in the community are.
Makes sense. So, what is coming up next for you, John, for Ocean Tech? This episode is actually going to air today, which is February 17th. So, is there something that you're looking forward to in the immediate future or something that we should know in store for your company?
That's a good question. I mean, I think looking forward to this year, right? We're at the beginning of the year. We're seeing a lot of people with concerns about cybersecurity, but we're also seeing changes and struggles coming to businesses this year from an availability of things like hardware, things like talent. Being able to hire the right people to take on work in your organization is always difficult, and a lot of times those businesses will fall back and say, are there technical ways that we can automate more of what we're doing? We certainly do plenty of automation, but it seems like that's spiked again, where it had spiked after COVID as well. We saw a lot of people asking about automation, and then it kind of quieted down. We're seeing that again. We're seeing the AI world taking up a lot of hardware, memory, hard drives, graphics cards, all these things that businesses need are, I don't want to say unavailable right now, but there's definitely limited availability. So we're finding people are going to have to keep systems in place a little bit longer, potentially extend warranties. So we're seeing some financial challenges there for organizations. On the broader outlook on the business side, we're looking at expanding into some other verticals. I mentioned financial, I mentioned construction, we talked about the nonprofit space, but we're looking for some other verticals because we can take our talent and go across those. Um, so yeah, more growth this year, more community involvement this year. It should be exciting.
Excellent. I love that. Let's see. So, when a company has some concerns and they think it's probably a good idea that they speak with a professional to go over what is going on inside their organization or their business and make sure that they're on a good track or see what they should be doing to have a more secure and technologically sound situation. How do they get in touch with you, John?
Take a look at the OceanTech IT website. Take a look at the list of services we provide, but absolutely pick up the phone and reach out as well. Call the office. I'm happy to have a conversation. We'll set up a time to do just a quick 15-minute discovery call, talk about your organization, answer questions for you, how we can help, and then we'll go from there. And then typically what happens after that initial phone call is we talk about that assessment that we talked about earlier in this meeting. We can run through that and figure out really where you are as an organization and help you decide what the best places for you to invest are, whether it's technology, whether it's training, whether it's some other aspect.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me, John. Is everybody ready for our giveaway? You could win a free gift card to Spire Coffee House with 2 locations in Toms River. We'll give away a $20 gift card if you can answer a question that we're going to ask right now from the episode. Do you have a question in mind, John? I have one that I'm thinking.
No, go ahead. I'm not thinking of anything in particular.
Okay. We talked about how John's business has changed from 2020 now to 2026 and the types of concerns that customers come to him with. There is a specific kind of concern that has become even more critical than it ever was before in today's technical landscape. So please email us the answer to that question. You can put OceanTech, OceanTech, in the subject line of the email. Send it to Lisa@shopjerseyshore.com. And we will choose a winner out of the entries before our next episode and announce it on our social media. So thank you so much. That's all the time we have. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, John.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate it again. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And thanks for watching, everybody. Remember to shop Jersey Shore. We'll see you next week.